Hi everyone, welcome back to Coffee Books and Rain, but we're going to have tea, books, and kind of a little bit of sunshine today, so we're going to go with it. We actually have another T. Kingfisher book because T. Kingfisher has soared to the top of one of my favorite author lists here lately. And anytime I run across one of their books, I am absolutely blown away. And only just now, as I'm typing it into Goodreads, am I even realizing that this book is associated with another, series perhaps. So I picked up the book Swordheart, and as I'm typing it into Goodreads, I am seeing that it is part of the World of the White Rat series, which also includes The Clockwork Boys and The Wonder Engine. Now, I don't know much about Clockwork Boys or The Wonder Engine because I don't own those two books, but I definitely think I'm going to be checking on thrift books or other book locations to try to see if I can get my hands on them and possibly read them. But today we're going to be talking about Swordheart, and we are going to talk about Hala and Sarkis and a sword and all the fun characters that tend to come along with all of this fun nonsense. And I say nonsense in the most hopefully endearing tone and endearing way possible, because I really had such a good time with this book. I do give it 5 stars because I was so utterly charmed by the book. I don't usually like romance. I don't usually enjoy fantasy romance, romantasy, so to speak. I guess just usually it's very heavy-handed in different ways. But this one it's sassy and it's witty, and I think there are points where you get a lot of stream of thought from Hala, who, I guess when you think about the things you don't say, well, Hala's gonna say them, and she's always confusing the other characters, especially Sarkis, because he's like, what? He literally reacts to those things, whereas if we keep them in our brain sort of things, nobody reacts to them. But I like the humor within it, and the tongue-in-cheek moments. It's really, really well done. So Hala is a housekeeper who has suddenly inherited her great uncle's estate, and unfortunately his relatives. Sarkis is an immortal swordsman trapped in a prison of enchanted steel. When Hala draws a sword that imprisons him, Sarkis finds himself attempting to defend his new wielder against everything from bandits and roving inquisitors to her own in-laws, and the sword itself may prove to be the greatest threat of all. So it does fall into that fantasy, romance, fiction. I didn't have the audiobook. I had the ebook. I wish I'd had the audiobook. That would probably have been really cute to listen to. But I may go out and find it. It says it was first published November 27th of 2018. However, I just received this one from NetGalley, and I want to say mine was not set to release until February. I'm looking at my notebook because I do try to make notes about when my books are supposed to release, and I'm not sure if I actually did. Let us see. I did not, but I think it was somewhere around February 18th or 25th, somewhere around in there for this particular version of the work. So congrats on this release. It might be a re-release now that T. Kingfisher has kind of made a name for themselves. So congrats on really kind of, and the cover art and I think that's what it is, because maybe the Kindle edition or the original production from Argyle Productions was done in 2018, but it looks like this one, this hardcover edition from Bramble, is 2025. At least as I'm looking at Goodreads, that's kind of what it says. It says Bramble 2025. It's a really pretty cover, so highly recommend. So let's dive into my thoughts. And I really, really love this book, just by the way. So the world opens with Hala more or less kind of contemplating her situation. Her great uncle, who was really her great uncle by marriage, he's recently passed, and honestly, her husband has also passed a few years previously, so they weren't really married, or they weren't really even related anymore. But anyway, she's no longer really part of the family anymore. She's been caring for this uncle, but now he's passed, and upon his passing, he has left her his entire estate. He's like, you know what? You cared for me when nobody else cared for me. I'm going to give you my estate, my lands, and all this stuff. Cool. She's totally fine with that. She's like, wow, I've never had anybody give me stuff before, because she grew up in a fairly impoverished sort of situation. And she's also buried a lot of people. I believe her sister and her mom and her husband, and now this great uncle. So she's now in her bedroom contemplating what she's going to do, because she's now locked in her bedroom because this great uncle had other family who believes this inheritance should have gone to them. They believe they are the real family who are the deserving ones of this inheritance. So they are adamant that she will marry cousin Alver, who has a really sweaty, clammy hands, and that just sounds absolutely gross. So she's trapped in her bedroom, contemplating the best way to resolve the situation, and she's very, well, she thinks the best situation is just to remove herself from it, which means to pretty much shuffle off this mortal coil. And I'm going to try to be as vaguely specific about that as possible. And the only way to do that is this decorative sword that's hanging on the wall. And so she really she's like, well, how do people do this? How do people throw themselves upon their swords and make this happen? She's trying to figure out, like, how do you prop this thing up and then, like, throw yourself on it? But once she draws the sword, and again, this is not spoilers, this is really the opening scene of the book. This is within the first probably 10 to 12 pages of the book. A man in this blue fire situation kind of forms, and he now calls her the wielder of his sword. And she kind of goes a little, she's very surprised, because she's just kind of in her night dress, and she's slightly underdressed, to say the least, and he's a bit taken aback, because now he thinks he's in a bit of a brothel, so to speak, because she is in a certain state of undress, and it is quite the scene to be had. It is hilarious. I love it so much. It is just the beginning of their madcap adventure. So they talk, and that's one of the great things, is that most of the characters in this book do actually talk. Mostly. There are still things that people don't talk about, and I think that's one of the things, is like, if you're going to talk, and the main thing about your character is they babble, then talk about the important stuff. If you have something on your mind, say it. I hate when people are just purposefully I don't know, they just don't say the things that are on their mind. If you have a thing that's on your mind, like you like someone, and you can clearly tell, and she's just being so obtuse about it, but they're both being so obtuse about it. Like, clearly, everybody around them, from Zale, the priest, to Brindle, the little knoll that's like driving their oxen, everybody knows that they like each other, but they won't tell each other, and it's infuriating because they both are making up these dumb excuses in their little brains, and it's just like you just want to bash their heads together, just like whap. But the characters are super fun. The adventure does go well. So he helps her break out of the house. He helps her pack her things up real quick because he's, of course, going to help her get out of this house and escape from these terrible relatives and figure out where she can go in order to determine her next steps. And so off they go and down the steps, and of course the family is like screeching because that's what I picture is happening, is this screeching, because I think like the aunt, like Malva, or aunt, I think her name is Malva, but she's Alver's mother. I just picture her at this just screeching, like off with their heads, like Red Queenish type voice. That's what I pictured when I'm like reading this book. um just just really kind of god awful, um as they're escaping out, like, to go figure out where they can go to resolve the situation, because she does want her inheritance. She just does not want the family, and they are trying to take it from her. So the characters are fun. I think my favorite is the little Noel Brindle. He's like this furry little creature with these sharp teeth, and he just does this great little job, and he has this fun little way of speaking. I like that the characters are all kind of flawed. I do hate that they just keep these stubborn little secrets that are just, of course, everybody's like, well, I was going to tell you later. It's like, does that ever work out for anybody? Does waiting to tell somebody something important ever work out by telling them later? No. It never works out if you tell them later. Never. I don't know what you're talking about. It never does. But they end up making it kind of across the countryside by literally walking, and there are several different religious sects they have to kind of like work through. There are some bandits along the way as well. There is some tension and turmoil. I can 100% see more adventures to be had, because the way they end it definitely leaves us hanging with the fact that we're going to have some more of figuring out of things to do. For like, there is more to figure out, because just as soon as we thought we wrapped it up, I mean, I thought we had reached a point in the story where I was like, oh, okay, we're done. And then I looked down at my page count and I still have like 90 pages left. And then, of course, then something else happens and we still have more things that we have to like there was another twist that we had to resolve. And so, but by the end of those 90 pages, something else told me that there is more story to tell. So, the dynamic is really fun. And you don't know unless you picked it up already. We've got Sarkis, who is this swordsman, this immortal swordsman, who is more or less trapped in the sword. So I am curious if this is going to be a permanent thing or what's going to happen. We've got Hala, who is this woman who now wields the sword, so we shall see what that means in the future. Brindle is the little knoll, but I think he works for the Order of the White Rat, and or the Rat. It's one of the religious sects that she goes to, and they are more like the lawyers, I guess you could say, of the religious world. And then there is Zale. Zale was the more or less the lawyer, so to speak, that they went and got in order to arbitrate on their behalf. I guess is that the right word? Arbitrate? Yeah, he litigate. I don't know. He definitely argued on behalf of Hala and her, the estate that belonged to her. But oh my goodness, the ups and downs and twists and turns, and everybody's kind of double crossing everybody. So good, so good. I can't wait until we get more story. Can't wait. But anyway, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you will like and subscribe if you haven't already. And thank you so much for joining me on this journey. I will see you guys on the next page. Have a great one.